how is it that you first got started with these organizations?
Well, it's kind of an odd story. It's a little different than most people. I don't have any kind of engineering background. I actually have a background in music production and performance. But I was working in the music industry and for the nonprofit, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, for a while, and just kind of decided that, you know, this childhood passion I had of working in space and the fact that I personally believe that it is one of the most important careers that you could have for the development of humanity. I suddenly realized that, you know, if I'm going to deal with divas or I'm going to deal with politics or any of the things that come along with a job, I would rather be doing for something that I really truly believed in, which was space settlement. So I kind of went looking online for different organizations that were involved in this, and on LinkedIn I came across Will Watson's profile. He's the executive director for the Space Frontier Foundation. And I just messaged him. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I want to hear more about what you do, and do an informational interview, which I recommend to anybody who's trying to switch fields. It's basically like a 15-minute interview where you just find out more about the person and how they got to where they are, ask them questions about how you can get there. It's not looking for a job, it's just, you know, informational. So he was happy to talk to me, so we talked for a while, and he discovered that I do have a background in marketing and communications, and that currently the Space Frontier Foundation needed a little love as far as that department went. You know, these nonprofits in space are often staffed by engineers who are not always the best communicators. So I happily agreed to help them out on a volunteer basis, and slowly over the last 2 or 3 years started working on their press releases, to help promote the NewSpace conference, to help promote different projects that they work on, and slowly just kind of ingrained myself in the organization until now I am the communications director and on the board of directors for the foundation.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned briefly that you had an interest in space as a child. What first got you interested in space? You know,
I guess I was just kind of always one of those little kid sci-fi nerds. My parents took away television when I was 3, so I had to read all the time to entertain myself. And when you're little, a lot of those books have, you know, astronauts and space people in them. So I got really excited about that, and just discovered that I really love space opera and military sci-fi and all that kind of stuff.
What are some of your favorite authors?
Ooh, Ben Bova I really like because a lot of his stuff is kind of based in business reality. You know, you look at a couple of his characters and they look like the billionaires of today who are launching these vehicles. So I like the reality of Ben Bova. And
Arthur C. Clarke?
Arthur C. Clarke, of course, the classics. I do love his books a lot. I'm trying to think of some of the modern authors. I basically like pretty much anybody who approaches sci-fi from a realistic standpoint, as opposed to oh, aliens come, so all of humanity bands together. Don't really think that's realistic. I think it's way more likely that we are going to have a commercial industry that's going to go into space, and maybe we'll meet them out there and start, you know, hopefully mixing the cultures.
Kim Stanley Robinson.
Yes, Kim Stanley Robinson, I do like him. It sometimes gets a little dry on the technical details about algae and, you know, the microflora of terraforming a planet, which, you know, like I said, I don't have any kind of background in that, so I get a little skim over those parts. But I do like the fact that he approaches terraforming and those different options that we might have to, hopefully pretty soon, approach.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So I understand that you're also involved with the Space Up Foundation?
Yes.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, the Space Up Foundation is literally just launching. We are working on our IRS, you know, nonprofit paperwork at the moment, and I'm going to be the chief operating officer, or we more like to call it the flight director for it. Space Up was launched by Chris Radcliffe, mainly because he wanted to give his kid and him a place to express their incredible space nerdiness. And it's just kind of gone like a wildfire over the country now. It's in DC, Houston, San Francisco, San Diego. And he started to discover that while the local ones each have their own unique personality, and we don't want to infringe on that at all, it's wonderful that they all do their own just crazy version of Space Up. But they were having a hard time getting a nonprofit bank account because you have to find a nonprofit to partner with, or to, have some of the seed money for that. Before your sponsors come in, how can you, pay for your website link and stuff like that? So we wanted to provide an infrastructure to help them with that if they need our help. So we're going to be putting, our nonprofit paperwork together, and we're going to be underneath the San Diego Space Society. They're going to kind of be a parent organization because that's another group that Chris works with. And mainly just going to try to spread it to as many, states and countries as possible. There's some interest in Canada right now for launching a Space Up, so we may be going international soon. And I personally love working with Space Up because those people are so incredibly enthusiastic, it's almost frightening. They're, at least 50% of them, probably more, aren't actually involved in the space field. They're just people who, like me, they just love space and they want to talk about it, they want to support it, they want to, make it popular again. There are a lot of people there who look at the Apollo program and go, why can't we have that level of engagement again? So it's just a chance to get together and have an unconference, which is where people get to write up what they want to talk about and lead panels. It's not like we bring in speakers. It's just we provide a location, some food, some t-shirts, and you guys talk about what you want to talk about and get excited about what you want to get excited about. And it's great because it ranges from, discussing the latest launch vehicles and technical items to, I believe we had one panel on what currency are we going to use in space? Because it doesn't make sense to use any Earth currency. Are we going to pick, US dollars? And who knows? So they were coming up with barter systems on Mars and stuff like that. So for me, it was just incredible fun to hear all these ideas, which hopefully someday will actually help us deal with issues like that, which never occurred to me before.
I think a great example about how people get so excited at these Space Up conferences is that guy who comes every year who does the space is not boring, this 5-minute speech that he gives.
That is probably one of my favorite speeches, and he's just so energetic. And it's true, because I do marketing communications for the space industry, I am a huge believer in the fact that space can be popular again. I try to disabuse anybody of the notion that, it's just for nerds, or it's just for engineers, or the only people we have to convince are billionaires and the government, and then space. I truly believe that it will never completely catch on as far as settlement goes until you engage the masses. The satellite industry wouldn't be as successful as it is right now if we hadn't adopted cellular technology and direct TV. So we need to get the masses to also adopt the idea of space settlement, of extraplanetary resources, because those are going to be crucial eventually, which comes back to the Space Frontier Foundation's mission, which, while most people know us for supporting commercial space since the 80s, the actual mission of the foundation is permanent, affordable space settlement. No more one and back and, look at the moon, we touched it and we're going to come back. No, we're going to go there and we're going to stay there and live there. And kids will be born on Mars and their kids will be born somewhere outside of the solar system.